All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. This is our 5th PM office hours session. This is a fun opportunity for we as Oracle PMs and developers and development managers to interact directly with our users and our consumers. I'm going to cover a couple housekeeping items. And then for the presentation today, last time we talked a little bit about how Exadata Express compares to schema service. A lot of questions about that and what the decision tree looks like to get to Express versus schema. Another one that pops up periodically is the decision tree around Oracle Database Cloud Service, or DBCS, which is full instance running in VM or on bare metal. And the decision tree getting to that versus something like an Express service. So I wanted to compare those two. There are two services from Oracle and provide unique benefit. Each one provides unique benefits. And I'm going to try and do this in just a completely unbiased way, just the facts. I'll kind of lay out for you some of the differences between the two and why you might want to take a look at DBCS or why you might want to take a look at Express for your cloud database. So I think that'll take 10, maybe 15 minutes. And then the bulk of this time is for question and answers. So you can feel free to jump in at that point with questions over audio. Just speak up or over chat. Let me make sure I've got my chat window open here. Okay, open up chat. So if that looks all right, I'm going to jump right in. So welcome to our 5th PM office hours. And by way of housekeeping, I always mention this. Please do, if you haven't already, and you want to become familiar with our Express service, take a look at this Welcome Tour video series, which is available on YouTube. It's a playlist on YouTube in the Oracle Learning Library channel. So this is 13 or 14 videos now. We add videos to it periodically. They're all less than 5 minutes. So quick videos that introduce you to Exadata Express, give you some of the basic concepts that will help you get up and running with it quickly and developing on top of this service, managing the service, interacting with the service console, administering the service. In a less than a half hour, if you watch this video series, you'll essentially be an Exadata Express guru. This is a fully managed service, so in terms of what you need to do to get it up and running, it's pretty simple. Less than a half hour, watch the video series, you're up and running, you're ready to go with Exadata Express. Of course, we have documentation on top of this that's published and available online. But this is a great way to get up and running quickly. And then I put a couple links to some Twitter accounts for myself and for our development manager, Vlad. We do make announcements on Twitter and talk about related topics on Twitter. These represent our own views, our own takes on things, but nonetheless pertinent to our jobs and what we're doing here. So you might want to take a look at Twitter, and that's a good source for news. And now let's talk a little bit about the decision tree for Express versus DBCS, our full instance running in VM or running in bare metal service, whereas Express gives you a containerized database, a pluggable database, a PDB. And there's a lot of different points for comparison here. I listed a few. I like to start at the top. I'm a PM, right? So I like to start at the top with use cases, usage scenarios, business scenarios. What are you trying to do in the first place, and what would be the most appropriate tool for what you're trying to do. You can also look at specific database workloads. We are releasing database cloud services now that are tuned for specific types of workloads. For example, our autonomous data warehouse cloud service, which you may have heard of, is more tuned for data warehousing, analytics, BI, data marts, things like that. The two services we'll be talking about today are really for mixed workloads. So they could really do anything. You could do some analytics, you could do OLTP, transaction processing. They're more for mixed workloads. Another important point is who manages the service. and what is the management that's required of you as the customer, if any. So in the case of autonomous data warehouse cloud service, for example, very, very light management and administration requirements of you, the customer, hence the name autonomous. For Exadata Express, this is also a fully managed service. With DBCS, where you're getting the whole machine, you can actually SSH into it and do things to it. You have full control, but there's also a bit more of a management responsibility for you. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Another interesting comparison point is the tenancy model. Do you need something that's fully dedicated to you and only you at the hardware level, or at the hardware compatibility level? In other words, a VM or bare metal machine that's yours and only yours? Or is it okay if we're delivering a database to you that's time sliced, and there are multiple database tenants in a single environment? So that's another important decision point. Connectivity, how do you connect to it? What are the different ways to connect to it? Do you just connect to it over HTTPS a la Apex? Do you connect to it over SQLnet via an Oracle database client? Do you connect to it over, can you SSH into it? Can you SSH into the host environment? So you want to look at how you're going to connect that. I guess that's a little bit related to management. Where is it available? Regions and locations. Which of our cloud control planes does it support? Right now, we're in the process of transitioning to Oracle's next generation cloud, our OCI. And this is a very advanced cloud, advanced data centers, advancements in the switching fabric, in the software, a whole bunch of interesting things in OCI, which I'll leave for another session. And we have PM specifically for that. But this is our next generation cloud platform, and we're transitioning to that right now. We have our previous cloud, which we refer to as OCI Classic now. And then we have the platform that runs our SaaS apps, our software as a service, our applications. So which of the control planes are you talking about here? That's an interesting decision point. And as we're in the midst of this transition to full-blown OCI, do you want OCI? Are you okay with OCI Classic, or something that's integrated with OCI Classic? So we'll talk a little bit about that. And there's many, many more decision points. I'm going to go light on hardware specs. I did put a little bit of that in the table that you'll see in a moment, but this is very available online. It's published online, exactly how many cores, RAM, how much compute, how much memory, how much storage. Those specs are freely available online, and I'll point you to where you can get that. What I wanted to do was drill down into some more of these subtle points that I think will help you with the decision process and with the decision tree. So with no further ado, here's my table. I'm going to just go through and speak a little bit about each of these rows here. On the left, we have the Exadata Express column. On the right, we have the Oracle DBCS column. And perhaps the first and most important question on a customer's mind is pricing. How much is this going to cost me? What kind of price point are these things targeted at? On average, Exadata Express starts a little lower. It's more of our entry-level service. It starts at about $175 per month with the flex pricing. And of course, it can be much less than that, because with the cloud credits, we're billing per hour. So if you don't have it running every hour of the month, it can be quite a bit less than that. But if you're running it for a full month, you're in our flex pricing plan. You can get a fairly capable X20 shape for about $175 a month. With Oracle DBCS, the starting point's a little higher. An analogous shape that's running Enterprise Edition of the database with many of the EE options that are included, that would be something like our High Performance Edition package, and that the flex price for that starts at about $825 per month for one core. It scales up as you buy additional cores. It also scales up as you go up in the package that you get. The EE options are put together in packages. So if you go up to the Extreme Performance Edition, you get additional things, but it's also a little more expensive. So it starts around $825 a month, scales up with cores and packages of features. However, and this is a very important point, it has this BYOL, bring your own license pricing. So if you already have Oracle licenses for use on premises, you can apply those licenses to your cloud instances and get much lower pricing. So it's a fraction of that $825 per month if you're bringing your own licenses to the table. So that's makes it, I think, very attractive, especially for existing customers who may have some unused licenses. And let me show you, let me go over now to the page where we got this stuff published. Okay. cloudoracle.com/database. Then if you ever have questions about pricing, you can zip over here, click on the pricing tab, and so this is the pricing for database cloud service. The pay-as-you-go, the flex, and then the bring your own license pricing, which you can see just at a glance is much less. Okay, so that's a good resource. Take a look at this web page for detailed information about pricing. So I'm going to go back here. And I should point out too that Exadata Express does not have the BYOL pricing available. There is not an analogous on-premises Express right now to take your licenses from. So this is something that this particular service is unique to cloud. There's not BYOL pricing available for Exadata Express, but there is for DBCS. Okay, scenarios. So this is the way they're positioned. Exadata Express would be appropriate for departmental apps, line of business apps, certainly for the SMB market. Whereas DBCS, you can do anything with. You can start small and then scale up to very large. It's appropriate for running enterprise apps at scale. It's appropriate for lift and shift type projects where you're taking large on-premises installations and moving them wholesale to the cloud. You can do just about anything with DBCS, so it's a much more flexible, more accommodating, and scales up to bigger, more powerful kind of solution. Whereas Express, again, targeted more at the entry level, and it does have some ceilings on the resources, on the cores, on the storage, on the RAM, and so forth. But is a very competent service for running departmental apps, line of business apps, things that would be appropriate in the SMB market. In terms of workloads, I mentioned this already, but neither of these are specifically tuned for analytics or BI or something. We do have services that do that. They're very capable platforms for doing your BI, but they're not tuned specifically for that. So we position them as more mixed workload kind of environments. DBCS, you really have a lot of control over your cloud instance. You can tune it yourself. For those who are familiar with Oracle database, there's many buttons you can push and dials you can turn and levers you can pull, and you can tune it specifically for OLTP or analytics, BI. It's up to you, but out of the box, it would be appropriate for mixed type of workloads. So you have a lot of flexibility in how you tune DBCS. Exadata Express is templatized and gives you a certain shape out of the box. You can do lightweight kind of analytics, you can do OLTP, you can do transaction, you can do whatever you want, but it has a specific template that it comes with, and fewer options to configure it and tweak the configuration and tune the configuration. In exchange for that, so this is the next row, Exadata Express is a fully managed service. So we do the storage configuration, the networking configuration, that's taken care of for you, the database patching, the database upgrades. All of that is taken care of for you by Oracle. Our cloud ops team does that, and the customer does not interact directly with that sort of thing. So if you want a very light touch in terms of management and administration responsibilities, Exadata Express is a great fit for that because it's fully managed. DBCS has some special tooling that provides automation for these types of things, for applying patches, for example. We try and make that as simple as possible down to button clicks. So it's fairly straightforward to do, but it does require some user interaction. There's some tooling to help you, but it requires some user interaction. And in that sense, DBCS is not fully managed. For the tenancy model, Exadata Express gives you a dedicated PDB or pluggable database. This is a containerized database running in our multi-tenant architecture. DBCS, you have access to the full VM or the full bare metal machine that is hosting and running the database instance. You can have full CDBs, container databases that are running multiple PDBs, that are running multiple containerized databases. And you have access to the host. So this is more of a fully dedicated environment, whereas Exadata Express, it is multi-tenanted in the sense that we have multiple containerized databases running in one pod, and there may be multiple customers on that pod. But each customer gets their own containerized or pluggable database. In terms of connectivity, with DBCS, you do have access to the host. You can SSH into the host environment, whereas Exadata Express, you absolutely cannot do that. In a fully managed environment, we don't want you, SSHing into the host and changing parameters. You can connect over SQLnet using any number of Oracle database clients, drivers, tools, utilities, and of course you have the HTTPS access provided by Apex. In terms of locations, data center availability, Exadata Express is primarily North America and continental Europe right now. It's Chicago and Amsterdam, Netherlands, whereas DBCS has more worldwide availability in more of our data centers globally. And I did have a page for that I wanted to show you. Zip over here. So this is another page to take a look at and bookmark. This is cloud.oracle.com/data regions. And here you can go through the various regions: North America, EMEA, Latin America, Asia Pacific, Japan, and then you can see our PaaS and IaaS services and which data centers these various services are available in. So if we zip down to database cloud service, see a lot of green check marks here, right? And then green check marks over here. So that means available in Chicago, Ashburn, Ashburn Classic, Phoenix. And then we have special government data centers for compliance with U.S. government regulations. So it's available in those two. And then if we go over to EMEA, go down to database cloud service, you can see a lot of green check boxes here. So it's available in Slough, in London, Amsterdam, and so forth. So you can go through region by region. And just in terms of comparison, DBCS is available in a lot more regional, local data center locations. And it looks like we have another question on chat. So Sonali, do we get access to Apex with Exadata Express similar to schema service? And the answer to that question is yes. Let me go to the next slide here. So we've actually got a row for that. So Sonali, hopefully this answers your question. Apex comes pre-configured in Exadata Express with the most current version. So we're pretty conscientious about updating the Apex in Exadata Express, so it's in sync with the current version. We've just recently released Apex 18.1, and we're in the process of upgrading Exadata Express to 18.1 right now. So we keep that quite up to date. In DBCS, you're getting a gold image in your VM or on your bare metal machine. And in that, you have the ability to stand up Apex. The Apex may be, it may not be the most recent version. It may be a version behind, and it may require a bit of manual configuration. If you're an Apex user and you've configured Apex on-prem or in your own VM, it's fairly straightforward. It's not too difficult to stand it up and configure it. But you might need to do a little bit of that work in DBCS land. It might require a little bit of manual effort. Whereas in Exadata Express, it's a great platform for running Apex apps, and we do our best to keep it current and keep it pre-configured, ready to go out of the box in Exadata Express. So you go back to the chats. So now, does that answer your question? And I see Tim, whoops. I see Tim chatting a little bit too. Yes, EECS allows multiple Apex workspaces and schemas, whereas schema service is single schema and workspace. Yep, so that's an important difference between Express and schema. Yes, thanks. Okay, great. So it looks like that question is answered. If you have any other questions about Apex, let us know. In terms of control planes, so Exadata Express is integrated with OCI Classic, and you'll see some portal pages that look familiar if you're an OCI Classic user. And we do some custom things behind the scenes in terms of where the network zone and where Exadata Express actually sits. It sits in what internally we call private compute. It's the same place our SaaS apps run, but we've integrated it with many of the OCI Classic components and componentry. So it will have a familiar look and feel to it if you've used OCI Classic services from Oracle. With DBCS, it's available in OCI. It's available in OCI Classic, and it's also available with Cloud at Customer. This is where you're actually buying a slice of Oracle's cloud in the form of machines and installing it behind your firewall, so that you have your own version of Oracle Cloud behind your firewall. And we help manage the box. You have access to provision any number of Oracle Cloud PaaS services off of that, and it's all in your environment. So that's Cloud at Customer. DBCS is included in Cloud at Customer, whereas Exadata Express is not. So DBCS is there and available on more of these cloud control planes. I see I have another question. Let me go back to the chat. Can customers run production environments on Exadata Express, considering customers get containerized PDB database? Yes. So the answer is yes. Exadata Express is fully licensed for production apps, production usage, as well as non-production scenarios, including dev and test and staging and things like that. And we have customers running production apps. So the answer to that is a definite yes. It's suitable for production. Although I should say too, we have customers who are interested in it and using it specifically for the purpose of dev and test environments as well. But it certainly does not preclude production use. Let me go back to the chat. Oh, my chat window disappeared on me. Here we go. And no access to sudo to root. Sonali, yes, that's correct. With Exadata Express, you do not have access to the host environment where the database is running. So you are not SSHing into it. You have no SSH access. You cannot sudo to root. You cannot become the root user. You have SQLnet access, allowing you to connect from an Oracle database client. And you have HTTPS access. If having access to the host environment and SSHing and becoming root and so forth, if that sort of thing is important to you, if that's a critical requirement, then that would put you in the DBCS camp for sure. You would need DBCS for that sort of thing. Exadata Express, fully managed, no access to break out to the host environment. But in exchange for that, it reduces the management burden. We're able to take care of a lot more things for you. And it looks like more questions. Go back to chat. Got it. Thank you. Okay. All right. So now let's go to this. We talked a little bit about Apex with Exadata Express is pre-configured. We keep it very current. DBCS, it may be a little behind. It may require some manual configuration. But Apex itself is not too difficult to configure, so I think that's not a huge burden. In terms of availability, with Exadata Express, we do run this on Rack 1 behind the scenes, so it has nice HA characteristics. However, customers do not, because they don't have access to the host, they also don't have access to the HA configuration. They don't have access to Rack. They don't have access to Rack 1, which we're using. That's hidden from the customer. We do use it behind the scenes, but the customer doesn't interact with it directly. What customers can do, we have built into our Service Console UI the ability to do your own backup and restore to cloud. So with a few button clicks, you can dump entire schemas to Oracle Storage Cloud Service Classic. So you can back up your schemas to our Classic Storage Service and then restore them from our Cloud Storage Service. So we have a nice capability to do your own backups and restores. But you're not interacting directly with RMAN. You're not interacting directly with RAC. You're not interacting directly with DataGuard or even Data Pump. In fact, those things are specifically closed off in a fully managed environment. Whereas with DBCS, you have access to all those things. You can set it up with your own RAC clusters, which you have access to and can administer. You can set it up with DataGuard. You can have standbys. You can take full RMAN backups and even send them to our backup cloud service. You have access to Data Pump. So all the things that you know and love with on-premises Oracle database, you also have access to with the DBCS service. All right, so that is a whirlwind tour. Hopefully that helps with the decision tree a little bit, kind of help you compare and contrast and understand some of the differences. And then here at the bottom, I did put some of the hardware specs. With Exadata Express, you're running on Exadata. With DBCS, you're running on commodity machines. Exadata Express, I mentioned, does have some ceilings. So it stops at 4 exa cores. You can consume up to 4 Exadata cores. You can consume up to 40 gigs of memory, and you can consume up to 1 terabyte of raw storage. That's uncompressed, by the way. Exadata Express does include the compression options, advanced compression, and Exadata hybrid columnar compression. So you potentially can fit many more times of actual data in that 1 terabyte of raw storage, but it is capped at 1 terabyte of raw storage. Whereas DBCS, you can scale up much higher, many more cores, much more RAM, and much more storage. So if you're thinking that you need to scale up to become huge, then DBCS is a better fit. And that, I got the web page for that here too. This is zip over here. So this is from the DBCS documentation that's published online. And this has a lot of good information about the DBCS specs. Here's the different packages: Standard Edition, Enterprise Edition, High Performance, and Extreme Performance. These are the different database versions it supports. By the way, I skipped that row. So DBCS, if you want to go back and run an earlier version of the database, like 12.1, for example, then DBCS is your main option. Exadata Express runs 12.2 and only 12.2. DBCS also supports our recently released 18.1 version of the Oracle database, and it's one of the first places that gets our new versions of the Oracle database. So this just came out, and you can see it's just available on DBCS now too. So if you want to run a really hot off the press version of the database or a slightly older version of the database, then DBCS is your solution. If you're okay with running database 12.2, which has been around for a while, very capable version of the database, then Exadata Express is an option as well. And you can see here for the bare metal shapes, the different kinds of shapes you can get with bare metal, the VM shapes, different cores and memory, and then you can see the storage can go up to about 50 terabytes of total storage. So take a look at this page. Another page you might want to bookmark, take a look at if you are considering DBCS. All right, I'm going to go back here, and it looks like we've got another chat question. Do we get access to Exa Express with $300 free trial? From Sonali, yes. The answer to that is yes. So Oracle has a $300 promotional credits trial where you sign up for that. I believe you do have to enter a credit card to sign up for it, although you're not actually charged anything. When you register, you're just given $300 of free cloud credits. And you can spend those credits on any number of things, including DBCS and Exadata Express. And for DBCS, I know the rate card that burns down your credits for DBCS, when you're under free trial, it's even cheaper than the prices that we showed. So it burns down your credits at a much slower rate. It gives you a good ability to experiment with DBCS for some time. And those credits are good for a month, if I recall correctly, 1 month. So easy to sign up. no cost. You get a bunch of free credits, and you can spend it on DBCS or Exadata Express or any number of other things that you can experiment with in Oracle Cloud. I should note, in Exadata Express, one subtle but important point there is, if you're signing up for the free promotional credits, as part of that, you will get accounts on OCI Classic, or you'll get what's called a traditional account, and you'll get an account on OCI, our new next-gen contemporary cloud, and you'll have accounts in multiple places as part of that trial. And when you want to go provision an Exadata Express instance, you need to switch to the traditional account. So make sure when you sign up for free trial, you switch to the traditional account that was provisioned for you. And then you'll see the buttons to provision in Exadata Express instance. If you remain on the regular IDCS OCI account, then you won't see the buttons to provision Exadata Express. You only see the buttons to provision DBCS and a couple other things. So, important point. You're signing up for free trials, you want to provision Exadata Express, switch to the traditional, and you'll see a switcher in the top right of the screen. And you'll see very clearly a thing that says traditional. You just switch to a traditional account, and then you'll be able to set it up. Okay, Sonali, great. We answered that question. All right, so that's pretty much it for my structured presentation. That gives you a little bit on the decision tree and some of the different characteristics of these two services. How to switch to traditional account. So when you after your trial is provisioned and you've signed up, you'll get some welcome emails, and that will take you to our login and our cloud portal pages. And once you've logged in, you'll see at the top right there'll be a drop down that has the name of your account, your username, and you'll be able to drop that down and switch between a traditional account and regular OCI IDCS account. So you'll see a drop down in the top right, and it should be clearly labeled. It'll have your username, and then in parentheses it'll say traditional. So it should be pretty clearly labeled, and just click on traditional. It'll take you over to your traditional account, and then you'll be able to provision an Exadata Express instance. So Nolly, we've not met too. Can you introduce yourself? Or maybe we have met. Correct me if I'm wrong. Have we met before? Are you a current Schema or Express customer? Or are you currently using Oracle Cloud?
Yeah, we have met before. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we met before, and yeah, I mean, just trying to understand how to get access to Exadata Express before use Schema service, but now trying to see if we can move to Exadata Express.
Since I mentioned roadmap, maybe just one other thing I'll mention. There is a lot of really cool advancements in Apex 18.1. I don't know if you're familiar with Application Express, but a lot of great new stuff in 18.1. The social authentication, for example, I think that's super cool. You now have the ability to stand up Apex apps that auth to things like Facebook and Google, and that I don't want to overemphasize that, but I mean I personally think that's really cool. There's a ton of other things in 18.1, and we're hard at work getting Exadata Express upgraded to 18.1. So keep an eye out for that. That's definitely in our sights and on our roadmap. As you may know, I can't give exact dates. Oracle doesn't let me do that, but that's certainly something we have our sights set on. So that's coming up soon.